So the past few lessons we've been talking about working on how to write a short story. And well, this week's lesson I want to talk more about how to read stories. Now, everyone reads stories and poems and literature in a different way. And today I want to discuss with you literary theory. Now, literary theory is an attempt to understand the various ways that people read books. And this sort of theory gives us a chance to view text with the so-called set of lenses. So, today we're going to go ahead and talk about maybe 7 different types of lenses, and I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some examples of some books that you could read with these lenses. So the first lens we're going to go ahead and talk about is a psychological lens. A psychological lens, it's the psychological motivations behind the characters. And a great example of reading a book with this lens would be Catherine Erskine's Mockingbird. If you look at the main character, the character with Asperger's, you'll notice that she can't do much of anything unless she finishes with her first and lower steps on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that would be a great way to look at how those psychological motivations motivate her and her actions in the book. Another lens would be the biographical criticism, and that's basically the life of the author. And you're looking at how the life of the author and the events in the author's life influence the book. And you can even see if the events in the author's life mirror the events of the life of the characters in the book. And a great example of this would be Raina Telgemeyer's Smile. If you look at the author's life, she had to go through a lot of dental work, just like in her story. Another great lens would be historical criticism. Historical criticism is when you're looking at the events that are either happening at the time or before the time that the book was written, and you see how these events affect the book that you are reading, and how knowing about these events would really give you some insight to what is happening in the book. And a great example of this would be Mark Zessig's The Book Thief. This takes place during the Holocaust, and knowing a lot about the Holocaust would really help you to understand The Book Thief a lot more. Another good lens to look at is rhetorical. Rhetorical is when you're reading something and they're trying to persuade you towards something. So when you're looking at rhetorical, really think about what are they persuading you to do, or what are they persuading you to think? Is there a call to action of some sort? And what do they want you to feel when you're reading that work? A great example of this would be Neil Shusterman's Unwind. If you look at this book, they have a huge commentary on, selling body parts and like selling away children's lives rather than just killing them and just slowly taking them apart. And that's got a very, very huge message behind that. Another great lens to look at is the feminist lens. This is the treatment of women in a patriarchal social structure. And you're trying to look at how women are viewed and portrayed in these books, and whether or not it's written from a woman's standpoint or a men's standpoint. And also when you're reading, maybe if you want to read it and try to think about it from a different point of view rather than just reading it as woman. And also this can also affect the author, perhaps, like how does the gender of the author portray how the book is written and the views that are being said. And you also want to look for certain stereotypes with this lens. A great example of this would be Rainbow Rowell's Eleanor and Park. Eleanor definitely goes against the normal feminist ideal, and she's definitely got more of a tomboy look going on, but she doesn't really mind. She doesn't want to wear makeup, and she's just the way she is. And then Park wears eyeliner at some point in the book, so it's just they go against the stereotypes. So you also want to look for that, for things that are like contrasting these that are contrary to these stereotypes. Another great lens to look at would be the Marxist lens. This is a commentary on social class or social structures. So you want to go ahead and look at who in the book has the power and who doesn't have the power, and how do they have the power, and how do the characters who have power, how does this affect the other ones in the book, and what are the consequences of this power, and also the money, where is all the money going, and how does having money or not having money affect these characters. And a great example of this would be Steinbeck's The Pearl. And you can just look at who has the money in this book and who doesn't, and how that affects how others are going to get money, and who's going to stay on top and who's going to stay on the bottom, how they keep everyone in this structure. The last lens we're going to look at is race lens. And this is looking at a text for its messages regarding racial or ethnic minorities in a text. You want to look at the structures within it, the interactions of the characters in it, and what does it say exactly about the text. So you really just kind of want to get a good idea about how characters are portrayed in this book and what stereotypes are being played out, and books like that. And a great example of this would be the book, it's that play with the businessman, which I'm forgetting the name right now, but it's a great book. If I could remember the name, I think it's A Raisin, no, is it A Raisin in the Sun? It might be A Raisin in the Sun. But if you could just go ahead and look at all the characters in that book and how they are affected each other and how race affects the different characters in this book and the different dreams that these characters have and how their race affects them actually achieving these dreams. But yes, that's just a great way, a great overview of the different lenses that you can go ahead and look at. And for this week's activity, so that I know that you've been here to read the lecture, I want you all to pick one of your favorite books and go ahead and write me a quick 300-word response through one of these lenses. So pick your favorite book, and you can pick any one that you want, and go ahead and view it through one of these lenses. So that would be the end of this week's lecture, and hope you have a great day.